back in the studio talking with Roy Connor, and we're going to find out what's going on with the Board of Directors. They had a big meeting yesterday, and the Community Relations Committee is very active, and they're the ones that we get involved with. So, Roy, take over.
Okay. Hey, good morning, Yvonne. Good morning.
By the way, you can call in and ask Roy any questions you might have about how the board operates and how it affects us. That number is 703-663-3333. So make sure you make your calls and let Roy know what you're thinking about. Okay, Roy.
Okay, thanks again. Yes, yesterday afternoon, the Community Relations Committee, which is made up of 3 members from our board of directors. It's Jackson Bain, who's the chair of the committee, Eileen Airstead, who has just joined us this year, she's new, and myself. And so we came down and we met, as we have been doing over the last almost year and a half now, met with the resident council. We had a really good meeting, Yvonne. We met up in the town center. And, just so the residents know, the resident council, your elected representatives,
right,
okay, are doing just a great job. I mean, they are really trying to communicate with management, communicate with the board about the desires, things people like to see, things they would not like to see, and so on. So it was good, and I think we'll be doing more of these sessions this year. We plan to try to meet with them at least 4 times. But just to give you an idea, we talked about, I'll just throw a bunch of topics out here and then we'll come back on a couple, but we talked about accreditation. We talked about who owns Greenspring, okay? We talked about budgeting at Greenspring, and how unique is our budget compared to other communities. They asked about the management and marketing agreement that exists between Greenspring and Erickson Living, okay? Because as you know, the board has a contract with Erickson Living to manage this community.
Right.
We talked about the annual management performance evaluation, which we prepare actually for the board, okay, each year. And we talked about the resident survey from 2017. We talked a little bit about the Greenspring Board. We talked about National Senior Campuses Board and their relationship to Greenspring as well as to Erickson Living. We talked about the vision and long-term plan. So that was all in 1 hour.
Doesn't sound like it could go very deep.
Our purpose is really just to ask, the council members, and Betty Crispin, who is sitting in for Peggy Kellers, who's on vacation this week, kind of coordinated the questions that the council had and did a great job. And we try to answer them as straightforward as we can. And I think that they appreciated it, and I think we certainly appreciated it. I hear a lot of it, but I think having Jackson and Eileen there with me is really good. I think this whole thing now, we have only 1 resident director, that happens to be me, but now we have 2 other dedicated board members who are regularly going to focus on Greenspring. So I think it's a really good thing. I like the way it's going. But I would mention to you, for example, the management and marketing agreement. They asked about, what is that? Where is it? There's a book up in the administration office. It has 15 documents in it, okay? One of them is the management marketing agreement. Any resident can go up to the office and look at any of those documents. It's there for their information, okay? So,
Now, when you say office,
Priscilla's office right there,
Right.
front office in town center.
In town center.
Administration office. There's a little book. We ask that you look at it there, okay? And it's there for your reading. And, there's a lot of information. And that happens to be one of them. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about that. By way of history, we have a lot of new residents out there probably listening today, but back in 2010, Erickson went through the bankruptcy procedures. Right. That's the old Erickson retirement communities run by John Erickson, our entrepreneur, the fellow who founded all this. Right. And during that process, there was an auction. all the assets of the old community, Erickson community, were auctioned off. And Jim Davis, who is the chair now of Erickson Living, very successful man in his own right with his own businesses in Baltimore, bid on it. And he bid against another company, an outside private equity company, and he won out and he bought Erickson. Well, at that time there were 16 communities. 8 of them were like us, they owned all their own building grounds and equipment, and the other 8 were still under development, like Ashby Ponds.
Right.
And they're what we call lease communities, because they are leasing their facilities from Erickson. Well, at that time, National Senior Campuses, which is our supporting board, negotiated with the new Erickson Living Company on the management and marketing agreement for a 10-year period, 2010 to 2020. Okay. And by the way, that time period was a requirement in the bidding, that when you bid for it, you would offer 10 years contract. And it was demanded by the other party. Okay. So they negotiated that for all the communities. Okay. And so, there was a question that came up at the Coffee with the Execs on Monday. I was asked about that. And at that time, I said, in 2020, it's likely that probably Erickson's contract will be renewed. But what's going to take place is National Senior Campuses, again, our supporting board, will go through negotiations. They will consider, other alternatives. But at the end, it was just my opinion, okay, given their track record,
Right.
we'll probably continue with them. I mean, despite some of the concerns, people have about Erickson and so on, they're actually doing overall a very good job, okay? And I know you have to step back from it once in a while,
Right,
to think
you
about
do.
it. And one thing I would point out that came out yesterday, and I wasn't on the board in 2010, okay? I didn't join until 2013, so I was not a party to any of those negotiations or anything. But Eileen Erstedt, who was on the board at that time, she was pointing out that Jim Davis, when he purchased, through his company, purchased Erickson, he really adopted the mission, okay, providing senior housing and health care, and believes in the mission. And he is in for the long term, okay, there's no question about it. He's financially very well off, okay. The Erickson company has no debts, okay. And as you know, we ourselves are in very good financial shape.
Right.
So it's really great to have someone like that leading a company that's providing the services to us. So whereas the other company that was bidding, for example, Eileen was saying that they did purchase 2 communities in the Chicago area which were auctioned off separately for some reason because of their bond structure. I'm not sure of the details on that. But the other company did buy those, and since then has flipped them. You know what I mean by that?
Oh,
In other words,
yeah.
they owned them, and they,
Sold them to somebody else.
that is a long way from where Jim Davis is.
Right.
And I know I've met the man when he came down, because at that time I was on the council, and I remember him coming here to Green Spring and meeting with us at the council, and you couldn't have a more dedicated person running a business that's supporting us. So I just wanted to get that in and try to have people think about that a little bit.
Remember, this is a call-in show. If you have any questions for Roy, 703-663-3333.
Okay, well, continuing on, the South Region had its last board meeting on February 16th up at Oakcrest, which is in Parkville, Maryland. It's about 2 o'clock on a dial around Baltimore. Okay, very nice community, about the same size as us. So, as I had mentioned on our earlier meetings and our discussions, April 1st, we're changing over our board structure, and that's only a couple of weeks away.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for probably 18 months,
Right.
but it's finally here. And under that structure, we're doing away with the 3 regional boards that we used to have.
Right.
And we'll just have the National Senior Campus Board and then our board, and that's it. Joanne Rorpa is retiring. She had planned to do this, and so we said our farewells to Joanne, and we always appreciate everything she did for us in almost 10 years on the board. Yeah, it's very, very nice. So the new board structure will go into place, but a key part of it is the CRC. And maybe I'll just take a minute to talk about the Community Relations Committee.
Sure.
These three people on the board, Jackson, Eileen Erstead, myself, we have several duties. One is, for example, to communicate with the management here at the location, with the council, to get feedback, what's going on, what are concerns. And we are the key communication vehicle to the whole overall board.
Okay.
And we'll be doing that. And so the other thing is, for example, we review the budget assumptions that are made. We did that last September and October. We conduct the town hall meetings. There'll be, by the way, there's going to be a town hall meeting in May 22nd here, over in Hunter's Crossing in the afternoon. There'll be details mailed out on that, but it's 2 months from now. And we're planning to have a really nice reception afterwards. I think we can kind of say this is part of our 20-year celebration. You know, this is 20,
That's right.
20 years in November, so we hope that we have a real good turnout at the town hall.
And that'll be a chance to meet the board members.
Meet the board members at that time. We'll be reviewing the annual report for 2017. By then, we'll have the audited results. And by the way, you know, the other thing about the board that you should know, and I think you know, but all the board members are independent of Erickson Living.
Right.
No board member can have a position with Erickson Living, can have a contract with Erickson Living. It is a separate, board, and it's independent. That's the key word.
Their interest is making sure that these areas, or these communities are thriving.
Right, exactly. So, but we'll be here to talk about that. And, you know, the other duty I mentioned very quickly was, in addition to overseeing the budget, we do an evaluation of the board, of the Erickson Living team's performance here in the community. And it's a checklist, it's a scorecard, you know, and we go through and we discuss that with them. And they make plans to adjust anything we feel should be corrected or changed, and that will be done. And, you know, Green Spring is a not-for-profit community.
Right.
And the National Senior Campuses Supporting Board is a not-for-profit. In the meeting yesterday, when somebody said, well, who pays the board? Does Erickson pay the board? No, Erickson doesn't pay the board. We are independent from them.
Right.
The fees that are paid to the board members, and they do get a stipend, each member, including myself, that money comes from the fees that residents pay. Okay? So, I mean, that's where it comes from. Erickson does not pay us. Okay?
Right.
We're not on their payroll. They perform accounting duties just like they do for Green Spring, because it's more efficient to have one centralized accounting function than have one in every one of the 16 communities.
Right.
You know, because like Ron Taylor, he has a very small staff. I think he has 5 or 6 people. That's it. You know, a while ago when Burke Drews was still here as finance director, he went over a study where they looked at doing some of the functions that Erickson provides to us, you know, having it all right here at the location. And almost in all the cases, it was more efficient to have them provide that to us, whether it be accounting or RT or publicity or marketing and so on. So anyway, those are some of the things that go on. The other thing I thought I'd mention just a little bit again is how, you know, a little bit about the history. And I know you and I have talked about this, but the original first community for John Erickson was, of course, Charlestown.
Right.
And that was converted. He bought the old seminary, converted, and put it in place. Technically, the second one was Fox Run in Michigan. And that was a joint partnership with people from Ford Motor Company. And Fox Run is still, you know, an Erickson management community today. And then the third one was Oakcrest, where I was at last month for the meeting. So Oakcrest was the third community, and they sponsored Green Spring and Riderwood. They got us started, okay? But then they said, wait a minute, you know, we just want to run Oakcrest. We don't want to keep sponsoring all the other. So that's when National Senior Campuses was formed. It's in 2005. Okay, so that's where we came up with this sponsoring board. And why is that important? Because right from the beginning, we were able to get our not-for-profit status. Okay, they are not-for-profit. They established us as a not-for-profit, which saves us a lot of money. I mean, we don't have to pay
Sure.
federal income taxes and so on. We do pay property taxes, but that's it. And in most cases, we don't pay sales taxes. So that saves a lot of money. That helps keep our fees down. But
That's also why it's important for us to report our volunteer hours.
absolutely, volunteer hours and also our charity work. You know, that's why the Benevolent Care Fund is so important. A critical part of having a good not-for-profit is that you do have a charitable arm, and we certainly do.
ECHO and those kind of things.
Absolutely. I always remember Ann Jacobs, who was the first resident director, was telling me she was here when the IRS made a visit to the community to see, you know, how is this not-for-profit
Are you
operating
really
and so
doing
on.
this?
And one of the things that they were very interested in was the Benevolent Care Fund and the Scholar Fund and these charitable things that we do. So the treasure chest, I mean, this is all, what it is we have a very, very solid model of a CCRC. And it's here. It's going to be 20 years old in November. We've started the repositioning, of course, of Garden Ridge, which is going great guns. And at the Coffee with the Exec meeting on Monday, they reported that they expect to have the construction finished in the summer, and in the fall, we will be transferring people from the current rooms to the new rooms, and that will begin that whole cycle. And so it is going on.
Yeah.
Now, again, I think it's exciting that we have that one going. The next one coming up is Town Center. I can tell you, as Chandra Kumar said, nothing is finalized on the Town Center design. They're still the architects are still working they're moving from conceptual drawings to try to get into some more detail. There will be more meetings. There is a resident and staff committee, excuse me, that meets with the architects. But the big thing is, number one, we're going to have a nice new swimming pool, and we're going to have a new fitness center. We're also going to have a new parking deck across the street in that lot right in front of Hampton Place, one level. And you can't beat that. There's going to be 42 more spaces net, and we get all done. But you know, people I know are concerned about what's coming, and Shonda promises just as soon as they have more information, there will be information given to the residents. Displays set up so they can see what's going on.
Okay, we need to close this out. Unfortunately, we could go ahead and talk for a long.